and welcome to Raising Your Strong-Willed Child. I'm your host, Sonali Wangchusari, and today I am so excited for the conversation that we get to have with the incredible Afshan Tapler. Afshan, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is so good to have you here. And for everyone watching, so a little bit of background about Afshan. She is a life coach. She's a conscious parenting coach. She supports parents she supports anyone, but parents, in helping understand what healthy anger looks like, feels like, how we express it, and how we move through it, and how we can express all of our emotions in a healthy way so that we can have better physical health, better relationship health, just better health in general. And so this is going to be a powerful conversation because what I know is true and alive in me as I've been working with my higher needs child, and is also true for my clients. And Afshan, what I love about you is this is also true for you, is that these kids bring us to our edges, where oftentimes we are very much brought into our anger and to experience and work through and lean into our anger. And that is a new process for all of us. So let's start off here because I know you and I have connected deeply on our experiences with our kids. Afshan, can you share when you hear the term strong-willed child, what does that mean to you? What does that evoke within you? Because all the parents watching are here because they have these sensitive, strong-willed kids.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to mention what it used to evoke in me, and now with my frame shift, what it really evokes in me. So what it used to evoke in me is, having a strong-willed child was about defiance and not respecting authority and not being, the same as going along with the norm. And it used to evoke a lot of anger within me because I had certain expectations of who my child should be. And my child, should fit into this way of being that is acceptable in society. And so whenever I was met with anything that didn't, that any sort of behaviors that didn't match that, I would have anger and it would bubble up inside of me. And then I tried to do anything to fix my child. For him to be different, for him to be quote unquote more normal and fit more into the societal acceptable norms. Now, when I think of strong-willed child, I think of leader. I think of perseverant. I think of somebody who is authentic and knows what he wants in life and will do anything to really honor that, include defy me and his parents. So, and then from the other perspective, I think of strong-willed children as people as kids who really have a lot of sensitivities underneath that strong-willed exterior as well. And so really understanding a child from a holistic perspective, what strong-willed means, is really that they often have these very amazing, very sensitive qualities underneath that are very fragile, and that they need that protection of the strong-willed nature over that, in order to protect themselves. So that's more from, looking at it from a very holistic picture of what strong-willed now means to me versus what it did before.
And thank you for mentioning that, because that's my truth as well, is that when, like, I remember, and you and I have talked about this, but, when I was at the beginning of my journey with my son, I really wanted him to do the things that I wanted him to do. And as that morphed, and now I see him as my guide, as my greatest teacher, and because he knows who he is so strongly that he created space for me to step into who I am. So I just think that's a beautiful definition. And I'm curious, you mentioned that the strong will protects some of the more sensitive qualities in these kids.
Yeah.
What are some of those more sensitive qualities?
Yeah, so It took me a long time to understand this because coming from like an anger perspective, because I've studied anger very deeply and I've had my own challenges with anger as well, you know, from burying the anger to um, lashing out and, you know, having rage on my child. You know, going deep into that work of anger helped me to really understand that anger and being more strong-willed, which anger comes with that, right? Is
Mhm.
about protecting the vulnerabilities underneath. And the vulnerabilities are can be, you know, painful emotions about themselves, not, you know, feeling more sensitive to the world and feeling different, and therefore then more sensitive. And because they're feeling different in some way, that they need something to protect them. So that strong will part of them will come up and protect them. They're energetically more sensitive, these kids. They feel a lot more. You know, they take in a lot more. They're like sponges. And even though they don't seem that way on the surface, because on the surface we see the strong-willed, underneath that are a lot of qualities that help them to really like process and connect to people in the world in a much different and much deeper way. But as a child, that's a lot to bear. So they need that, and then they feel anxiety from that, right? And so to
Mhm.
protect the fear and anxiety they feel from feeling all those differences, anger comes in to then protect and you know, draw the boundaries or try to get what they want so that they can feel safe. So at the heart of it, I think a lot of these kids, because they feel different, they don't really feel safe because they can see how different they are compared, you know, to others. And they can, and the way that they read information and the way that they read energy makes them feel, you know, unsafe at times. And so they're just wired differently, right? A lot of these kids who are strong-willed, they really are just wired differently, and because of that difference, they and what they're mirrored, right, which is a lot of normalcy, right, and what they're mirrored is to um, to try and become more normal, right, to try and
Mhm.
become more these kids who fit in. That I think exacerbates the anxiety even more, and then the strong-willed nature comes out even more.
Right. And I love, like, so what I heard you say that I love is that this anger is a protector. It's a beautiful protector to keep the child feeling safe.
Yes.
And because they don't feel safe, because they're so sensitive and so aware and so attuned to their environment, their surroundings, their family, you know, they're attuned. And so the anger is there to serve and support that. And what I'm pulling into, you know, for parents watching as well is that our anger, when we feel it, is it's trying to support us. It's our protector as well to keep us safe.
Yes. And so, you know, I the work that I do is not like the work that I do with parents is not to help change their child, right? It's really about working with the parents to help them first work with what's coming up for them. So if you're a parent and you're having a lot of anger about your child who's very strong-willed, who has a lot of anger, there's a reason
Mhm.
for that. So I often believe that, you know, we get these children for a reason, from a very bigger picture perspective. These kids come to us to teach us something about ourselves. And my own journey of healing anger was a lot about seeing what my child mirrored to me. So if I got angry at my child, I had to really look at what was it. Okay, first of all, I didn't accept certain things about him, his behaviors, but why not? You know, why wasn't I accepting him getting angry? And instead, then I would get angry as a result. And it's because I couldn't be with my own anger, and that I couldn't accept my own anger. Because if you think about it, as children, we're often mirrored. If we got angry as children, what was mirrored to us from our parents? Lack of approval, punishment, disconnection, and we
Right.
didn't get love and acceptance for our anger. So then we took that learning and we took that into ourselves and said anger is not acceptable. Yet we end up, so when we see our child mirroring anger to us, we end up then mirroring anger back because it's so automatic. It's so, that learning is so wired into our subconscious, into our nervous system response. So we end up reacting then to our kids. But that's really showing us is that these strong-willed kids, they came to us to help us learn how to really love and accept all parts of us, including anger. And I think, you know, a lot of us try to really manage and control our anger and keep it down and push it down, only for it to like bubble up, and then we have these explosions, only to
Right.
sit in guilt and shame about it. You know, that's not really healing anger. It's not about controlling your anger. And so it's not, and also for your child, it's not about controlling their anger. It starts with really healing anger at the root cause level, which is healing your relationship with anger. Because anger is a very necessary emotion. You know, we're biologically wired to have it. And so if we're biologically wired to have it, then why are we all trying to get rid of it? You know, it's because we've only learned unhealthy ways of being with the anger, and we need to learn healthier ways to be with it for this very powerful energy to come up, to be released, to understand its message, to take action from it. And then the same thing goes with our kids, to understand the messaging underneath their anger and why it's coming up, what's going on in their nervous system health. You know, they're wired differently, right? So their nervous system is wired to react more. But it's also about understanding like what's going on underneath that anger that then is causing anger to come up and protect and, you know, draw boundaries or whatever the messaging is.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's so many good things that I just heard you say that I want to just recap. So first, I heard you say that anger as an emotion is healthy and necessary. What doesn't work is how we express that anger, which
Yes,
is
the
usually
learned
in
way.
the learned way, the programmed way of yelling or withdrawing connection or you know, like shaming or whatever. That's what doesn't work. But anger as in on its own is a healthy emotion. And not only that, you said something that I love is that there is a ton of life force when you experience anger, you
Oh,
know,
it's
that
powerful, right?
it
It's
is.
very
Yeah.
powerful. It comes up, there's a lot of power to it. So yes, it's very connected to life force energy.
And so that you do feel all that energy when you get angry. And now it's how can you move that? How can you be with that in a way that's healthy? And I also heard you say, look for the message in the anger. And I love that because I've always said anger is information. And so then you go to the next question of like, okay, what is it trying to tell you? What is it letting you know? And you start to talk about boundaries. And so tell us more about that.
Yeah, so anger is definitely information, and it's information on many levels. So first, anger comes up to protect you, and then really understanding why it's trying to protect you, what it's trying to protect you from. Your child in front of you, you see, when you're really angry, you see them as the perpetrator. You know, that's what's going on. Your system has been taken over by this anger, sees your child as a perpetrator, and wants to like do anything possible to change your child on the outside. But so the messaging underneath anger can often be, you know, depending on what's happening on externally, is either I may need to draw a boundary. You know, okay, the very first messages on a nervous system level is I'm not feeling safe. Whenever anger comes up, if we could all shift our mindset towards seeing anger as lack of safety, that I'm not feeling safe when I'm angry, and so I need to bring up this powerful energy to be in your face so that I can feel back in control and have power, right? So at the heart of it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not feeling safe. So then to go underneath that, why aren't you feeling safe? You know, is a boundary being crossed? Has a value, you know, are you trying to defend a value of yours? Are you have an unmet need or an unmet expectation? And then beneath that, lives all of the belief systems that we're operating under. So anger, getting angry in the moment, understanding why you're getting angry can often help you identify very limiting belief systems that you might be living under. So for example, our child, you know, gets angry and defiantly says no to something that they don't want to do, that you think that they should be doing, that you think they should be compliant and obedient on. So the belief there is that my child should be compliant and obedient on this, no ifs, ands, or buts. And the question you have to ask yourself is, well, where did I learn that? Where did I learn that compliance and obedience is so important versus my child in this moment telling me authentically what he does or doesn't want to do? So where does that belief come from? And likely then what's underneath that belief system is a childhood wound, where in your childhood, you have experiences that got wired into your subconscious and your nervous system that when you weren't compliant and you weren't obedient, you got in trouble, you got punished, and you you were disconnected from your caregivers. Because as children, all we really want is number one, as children, and I think people in general, is safety, love, acceptance, and connection. That's what children want. That's what children need to really thrive and be resilient. Safety, love, acceptance, and connection. And when we get, when we get angry at them, it's, we are often triggered back into a childhood state where we lost safety, love, acceptance, and connection. And then through that experience, we determine, oh, I better listen, I better obey, I better be obedient, I better comply, because otherwise I lose the safety of love, acceptance, and connection.
Mhm. And I love that you just said that at the end. It's the safety of love, acceptance, and connection, right? Like that's what it's really that. If you lose the love, if you feel unloved, that feels unsafe. If you lose the acceptance, if you're starting to feel unaccepted, that feels unsafe. If you start to feel disconnected from your caregiver, that feels unsafe.
Very
Like,
unsafe for a child, yeah.
And I love that you're bringing this all back to safety, because I think that's such an important topic, and not just for our child, but for us as the parent. Like, it doesn't feel safe all the time to be experiencing the experience that we're having with our child. And when we say that, we mean that, like, we're afraid of where it could go. Like, we don't know where it could go. We don't.
Yes, 100%. Like that is, that's one of the biggest challenges that I've had in the moment, especially when my child has become, more violent, or like is hitting and throwing things and trying to break things all over the house. That's my nervous system automatically gets hijacked into danger, danger alert, danger alert, danger alert, right? And then that's when anger can come up and really take over, because it's valid reason, right, to feel unsafe.
Mm-hmm,
But so
mm-hmm.
for parents to really understand that anger is also very automatic. So all emotions, first of all, are automatic. They come up automatically. They're not under our conscious control. We're not consciously producing that anger and emotions. Like any parent who lashes out and has rage at their kid doesn't do it on purpose. Afterwards they're like, what happened there? Like, I can't believe I just did that. So most of these parents are not doing it on purpose, okay? And so
Right.
what we need to understand is, at a nervous system level, what's happening is that your danger, we have a nervous system that's constantly scanning the environment for threat. And when we sense a threat in our environment, even if it's our child, our nervous system is going to start to react and feel unsafe. And as soon as we feel unsafe, we're going to go into fight, or we're going to go into, if your tendency is to flee, which is just walk away from the situation, ignore it, or pretend that it didn't happen, that would be fleeing. We'll go into fight or flee. Or for some, if you can't do anything about the situation, then the last resort is to go into shutdown and immobilization. So that's automatic from our nervous system. So anger can come up very, very automatically towards our children. So the key is to, like, how do you get yourself to feel safe again? And there's nothing that makes you feel more safe than acceptance, love, and connection. And so those are really like the things that I encourage parents to bring in and start to repattern and reprogram their ways of being with themselves, so that they can calm themselves in the moment, calm their nervous system, right? Their automatic nervous system reaction, calm themselves in the moment, So then they can see their child through the lens of, oh, his or her nervous system is really activated right now. How can I now help him to feel safe, loved, accepted, and connected, so that his nervous system can hear and all those cues, get all those cues, and start to calm down, because kids need us to co-regulate. They,
Mm-hmm.
we often expect kids to regulate on their own. We leave them alone to do it by themselves. And to be honest, a nervous system, which we are all humans, we're all souls in this human body that has this nervous system that goes into reaction mode. We this nervous system needs social engagement, needs to read another person's nervous system, that energy of love, acceptance, and connection coming from that nervous system, for this nervous system to then go, oh, okay, does that mean I'm okay right now? I'm okay right now, So that's really, a lot of the stuff that I teach is to understand that a lot of these emotional states that come up are automatic. And then how do you get back to safety? How do you get back to safety?
Mm-hmm. And bringing it back to safety. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that you brought up that, it's we bring ourselves back to safety so we can bring our children back to safety. So oftentimes we want to tell them, and this is for every parent watching, we all have done this. We've all received this programming. It's been in all of us. We've all had moments where we've yelled at our kids. I know I have. I know, actually, I believe you have
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's about how can you then shift instead of that, instead of trying to, uh, what I see happening in the past is we would try to get our kids to calm down with our anger so that then we could be calm. But
Yeah.
now what you're doing is switching. We're taking the lead. We're calming ourselves down so that we can bring our kids back to that state as
Yes,
well.
exactly. Like we're all under this notion that, oh, if we just fix what's in front of us, then I can be okay. If I can just change this in my outside of me, then I can be
Mm-hmm.
okay inside of me. Life doesn't work that way. We can't always control what's outside of us. What we need to do is we need to heal what's inside of us, this pattern of not feeling safe that makes us go into anger. Now we can change the pattern and learn how to help ourselves feel safe, how to accept this anger coming up in the first place, help ourselves get back to safety so that then we can help our children get back to safety. And through that process, our children learn how to help themselves get back to safety. They read that energy that we're bringing. They learn to accept themselves in that really ugly moment of their anger. And then
Mm-hmm.
as they learn more to accept their anger, they're going to be much more in a better place to handle their anger and learn how to handle their anger on their own.
Oh, what you brought up that was powerful because the talking about accepting their anger, like we reject our anger. We try to, you mentioned before, push it down, but we actually reject it. We don't want it,
Yeah,
And
we
so
want
it's
to get rid of it, but you can't. You
right.
know why? You have a reward center in your brain that lights up when you get angry. It is necessary for survival and is there because all of us would get rid of anger if we could, but we can't. So how do we be with it in a healthier way, right?
Yes. Oh, and that's powerful to know. I'm glad you said that. I didn't even know that we have a reward center in our brain for anger. Okay. So we can just let go of trying to get rid of it. It's not going anywhere. We get
Yes.
to learn how to be with it. So you talked about this. So what you teach your clients is how to return to safety when you're in the anger, how to be with that anger. And the question is naturally coming up. Okay, tell us more about that.
Okay. So this takes me sort of into the tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of that I want to teach today of how to really start to shift that relationship with your anger in the heated moments. The first step is really to start to practice this and become more aware when you're angry in the moment, that so it doesn't take you over. So step one is what first helps your system to start to calm down is when an emotion comes up. Emotions are very painful, and so automatically we want our higher thinking brain doesn't want to necessarily be with the painful emotion, so we push it down. So the first step is to notice when the emotion comes up, and in order to keep our higher thinking brain online, we really want to stay with that emotion and tolerate it and name it. So step one, name the emotion. And then this goes for any emotion, but if you're feeling angry in the moment, you can say, I'm feeling really angry right now. I'm feeling really frustrated right now. And saying that in your head, you don't have to say that to your kid. Your kid could be flailing, doing something. The moment you notice you start, your body reaction is starting to get really heightened, you
Yeah.
just give yourself a few moments in that moment, let your kid do the behavior, right? And take care of yourself first. So name your emotion. Oh my God, this is really making me angry right now. I'm so angry. Research shows that naming the emotion helps bring down the stress reaction in the body immensely, actually. Because then now we're bringing it into our conscious awareness versus letting it just be in the subconscious and taking us over, okay? Step
Uh-huh.
one, name the emotion. Step two is use this breathing technique that hacks, called the vagus nerve breathing technique, that hacks into your nervous system response. So your nervous system is activated, not feeling safe. And you want to start breathing in a certain way that hacks into your nervous system to start giving your body the message that in this moment I'm safe, in this moment I'm safe. So the way that you do that is you breathe into your belly if you can, and you breathe out a longer, slower out breath. So I often say 4 counts in and 6 counts out. And you can breathe out your mouth or you can breathe out your nose, whatever you find more comfortable. Sometimes breathing out the mouth when you're really angry is good, as long as you slow it down and have that slower out breath, and then the out breath till the point where your like belly's empty of the breath. And what that does is it hacks into the calming nerve called the vagus nerve, which innervates from your brain into all your organ systems, and it has bidirectional communication, right? So if you start to breathe, you're signaling to your body to calm in the face of this stress. And then that signal goes back up to your brain to help your higher thinking brain stay more online, and to feel okay during this stressor that's happening right now. So to
Mhm.
continue to breathe in that way as soon as you start to feel heightened. And then step 3 is to bring in that love and connection that also brings in that feeling of safety by putting your hand on your heart and offering yourself self-compassion. And so what I start to do is, as I'm breathing, so I've named the emotion, I'm doing the breathing, and my hand is on my heart, and I often just close my eyes in the moment, and I say that I'm struggling right now. I am so angry. Again, I name it again, and I say, but I'm not the only one. Many parents feel this way. That brings in a feeling of connection too, to know that you're not alone, to know that, and this comes from mindful self-compassion work, to know that you're not alone, and that the greater population of parents go through this too. And so what you're doing is you're bringing in a soothing experience, and you're just feeling a lot of love in your heart for yourself and for this angry reaction that you're having and for your suffering. And then what you're doing is that's really changing your relationship to this very strong, powerful emotion that's there, that's trying to protect you, that's trying to help you. Instead of hating it, you're offering love to it. I often say, okay, thank you, anger. I know you're trying to protect me, and I so appreciate it. Whatever comes to your mind to help yourself, like how would you soothe that little child inside, or a little child in front of you, if that helps you to think of what to say. Think of a little child in front of, maybe not your child right now because your child is irritating you, but think about a little, and it's a little baby. What would you do to soothe them? And that's what you need to do to yourself, because that's going to help your system get back to safety, help you to feel more regulated. And then from there, and it literally only takes, 2-3 minutes in the moment. And that's what's going to help you then to think more clearly about, okay, now how do I want to handle this situation with my child?
Okay, I love that. So for everyone listening, this is what we get to try today with Afshan. So we get to lean into this relationship with our anger. We get to build a relationship with it instead of trying to resist it. And so we get to first acknowledge it. Second, use the vagus nerve breathing. And then third, offer ourselves deep self-compassion. And you're saying that these three steps are going to shift us from that resistance, from that fear, from that lack of safety back into safety.
Exactly, exactly. And it's really about having a new experience with your anger that you can then start to wire into your nervous system and have it override that old experience. And then one thing I do want to mention is that people who have a hard time with self-compassion are the ones who need it the most. And to really offer them to just take it slow. They may have never been given any self-compassion growing up, and so they can't give it to themselves, they can't give it to their child in those moments. And so, take the baby steps, do whatever feels most comfortable first, in terms of even just saying, okay, I can accept this anger, I can accept this anger. If you can't give love towards that, just, even a mantra of I can accept this anger with your hand on your heart, and then eventually, you can get there.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Afshan, for sharing that. So this is what we get to try today, guys. And Afshan wants to know. I want to know. So hop into the Facebook group, leave us a comment, let us know your experience with this tool. This has the power to transform your relationship with your anger. This is powerful. This is impactful. It sounds simple. I know for people watching, it sounds simple, and yet it is so powerful because I have experienced it. I have worked with, like I mentioned, I've worked with myself. I've I was raised in a yelling family, and yet I wasn't a yeller, but my energy has been yelling. So my kids will say to me, and what I've done is actually I've built in accountability for myself with my kids, where they'll say, "Mommy, you're yelling," and I'll be like, "No, I'm not." But your tone, or
Oh,
your
my son
face.
does that too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
And then I'm
my
like,
kids,
you're right, you're right, you're right. And then I take that moment to like regulate myself. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's how, for me, it's the having the accountability. Like I've taught my kids to tell me and to let me know when I'm feeling that way. So like, my youngest might be like, "You're yelling," and then maybe I'll say, "Oh," like, and I'll adjust my voice, and then my son will say, "Yeah, it was your face, or it was your tone." And I'll be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
got
It's nice. I
me."
think it's so nice that they can give us those little reminders, for sure. Because
Hmm.
nobody's perfect, right? And you're going to have your moments. And it's nice when your kids start to recognize that they can tell you that they're not feeling safe with what you're showing them. And then you can switch that.
Hmm. And that builds the safety, and that repairs the relationship with them. It repairs
And
the
it builds
trust.
trust.
Exactly. Yes. And that is such a big word. When you hear about safety, you hear, like, for me, they're very deeply connected, safety and trust. And so when you're building that safety, now you're building trust that, okay, I can trust, I have faith that I can be safe with you in our
Yeah.
relationship. And yeah, and it sounds like you're saying that same thing, that like anger, because anger is about not feeling safe. And when we can be with our anger, we're building trust. And when people can give us feedback for how we're showing up, we're building that trust in a relationship. So try this, everyone, today. Bring yourself this self-compassion. Let's lean into our angers. Let Afshan and I know your experience. Hop into the Facebook group and let us know your experience. And Afshan, you also have a free gift that you're offering everyone today.
Yeah, so it's a free webinar on anger that will walk you through the 7 steps to transforming anger the conscious way. And it will give you some tools of how to break that reactive anger pattern in the heated moment. So that link will be provided, and you can watch that free webinar.
Okay, thank you for that. And so you can catch that link below and click on that link, and Afshan will send that to you right away. And Afshan, do you have any? I know that you are such a kind, compassionate, understanding, open soul. Do you have any words of encouragement to offer everyone listening today?
Yeah, in the times we're living in right now are pretty intense.
Mm,
And I just encourage parents to really go easy on themselves, and to forgive themselves more, and to not have such high expectations of themselves, that which increases the stress level, which then causes us to react more. So that's the first thing I would say, is to really, honor that this is a hard time for everyone. And if you're struggling right now, you're not alone. We're all going through that. And then the second thing is to, take some opportunity in this time to really get quiet. And, this is a really strong, powerful time to do some deep, deep inner work. And so I encourage you to take that time to be with your emotions, to, help yourself through this, and really provide yourself with that self-care. I often call it doing your emotional fitness is really about taking care of your emotions. And we all know the importance of physical fitness, but the importance of emotional fitness is just as important. And so how do you really take care of your emotions, change those old patterns, that were passed on generation after generation, and start to really value yourself, and honor your self-worth by taking care of your emotions.
I think that's my new favorite phrase, emotional fitness. So fun. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you too. It was my pleasure.
And thank you everyone for sharing your time with us. We appreciate you being here. We know how busy you are, especially right now with your kids home. And like Afshan said, we all understand. We're all in it too, how intense this time can be. And just leaning into what comes up. And we appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing your time. And I will see you again. Bye.
Bye.